Yeah, thank you for having us. So I'm Catherine Held. I'm General Counsel with TDVS. I'm going to give you kind of an overview of our department's functions, and then Travis and Patrick are going to dive into more detail about the legal framework that their teams operate within. So Tennessee Department of Veterans Services, was established in 1945 with the specific purpose of serving veterans in the state of Tennessee. Every state has an agency for veteran services. Some of those agencies are housed within boards or commissions, but in 40 states, including Tennessee, there's an actual department that handles veteran services. Sometimes that's within the Department of Military, but here in Tennessee, Veteran Services operates independently. So our mission is straightforward, but we have a profound impact on the state of Tennessee. We serve veterans of all eras through passionate advocacy, informative outreach, and an honorable final resting place. Advocate, inform, and honor. That's sort of our mantra. In 2021, we underwent a department-wide reorganization to move from a geographic alignment to a functional alignment in order to streamline our operations. So we now have the Cemetery Division, which is led by Assistant Commissioner Patrick Rice, the Appeals and Accreditation Division, which is led by Assistant Commissioner Travis Murphy, and our Benefits Division, which is led by Assistant Commissioner Lorenza Wills, who's not here today. So moving to advocate, inform, and honor. Let's see. Advocacy is really at the heart of our mission here at TDVS. Under Tennessee Code 583105, we are tasked with assisting veterans, their families, and dependents in navigating a complex landscape of benefits that they're entitled to both at the federal and state level. We accomplish this mission through our Benefits Division and our Appeals and Accreditation Division. Our Benefits Division operates 13 field offices across the state of Tennessee. Some of those field offices are located within state buildings, but many are located within VA medical centers. We have 24 veteran service officers on our benefits team that assist veterans and their families with filing claims, VA forms, state forms, and just generally navigating that complex landscape of state and federal benefits. And to that end, we filed actually over 16,000 claims in the last fiscal year. But we don't do that alone. Nearly every county in the state of Tennessee employs at least one, but often more county service officers to provide that same initial claims assistance. And TDVS facilitates federal accreditation and training of those county service officers. We provide a really significant amount of training and support to ensure that everyone who does this work across the state of Tennessee who is accredited through us is providing the highest possible quality of advocacy. So that accreditation and training team is housed in our Appeals and Accreditation Division, which Travis will talk more about in a bit. The Appeals Division also contains teams that are dedicated to quality review and the Board of Veterans Appeals. The quality review team reviews all of our forms and claims that are filed by state and county VSOs to ensure, we're making the strongest possible case on behalf of our veterans. We do that quality review and training to get those benefits that veterans and their families deserve granted the first time. But of course, there's always going to be appeals, which our Board of Veterans Appeals team or BVA team steps in to handle those appeals. The BVA team provides appellate advocacy at the board level for veterans who are denied some or part of the benefits that they feel that they're entitled to. They are incredibly thorough. They'll look through stacks of medical records, weather reports from Vietnam, and even tattoos, and they'll gather up all that evidence, help the veteran secure that evidence, and present all of this information to the board. And because of that, the BVA team actually has a higher grant rate than the national average. So moving on to inform. The Tennessee Code 583-104 requires TDVS to collect and disseminate vital information about the services and facilities available to our veterans and their families. We have an outreach team up at headquarters that works to identify critical public, private, and nonprofit stakeholders that serve veterans in some capacity. The team conducts town halls in every region across the state. They conduct outreach in prisons, nursing homes, community events, doing really everything that they can to get information out there and ensure that that veterans and their families are informed about our services, veteran services, and connected to any benefit or service that they deserve. And let's go to honor. All right, so Tennessee Code 466-106 entrusts TDVS with the responsibility of operating the Tennessee State Veteran Cemeteries. We have 5 cemeteries across the state, and we ensure that the final resting place for our veterans is a place of dignity and honor. These are beautiful, reverent, award-winning cemeteries that are impeccably maintained to the highest national standards. Patrick is going to talk a lot more about the cemeteries here in a bit, but I wanted to mention our Honor Guard grant program. It's outlined in Tennessee Code 432505. The Department of Military in Tennessee provides honor services at veteran funerals, but there are nonprofit organizations across the state that provide that honor service as well. And this Honor Guard grant program allows us to reimburse those organizations for the expenses that they incur in providing those honor services. It took quite a bit of work for us to get that in place, but I think it's really been helping. All right, we can move on to the next slide. And other than that, there's a ton of benefits and services across the state that are dedicated to veterans, where jurisdiction over those benefits services resides within a different state department. Under Governor Lee's Executive Order 102, the Tri-Stars and Stripes Council seeks to enhance coordination and collaboration across the state to promote Tennessee as the best state in the nation for military veterans by pursuing strategic initiatives to enhance their quality of life. The council is administratively attached to TDVS, and there are quite a few agencies across the state that are a part of it. And then we also have the Tennessee State Veteran Homes. So the homes were established by the General Assembly in 1988. They are skilled nursing facilities that provide primarily long-term care to residents, but can also provide some short-term rehabilitation. TDVS does not operate these homes, but we liaise with them as needed. And our commissioner is an ex officio member of the 13-person board. And then there's all kinds of different services that other state agencies provide. There's home buying assistance, there's property tax relief, education benefits, veteran treatment courts, veteran license plates, hunting and fishing license discounts. If you want a good summary of those benefits, the Comptroller's Office did a report back in 2021 that has a fantastic overview. We're happy to send it over if you reach out. And would like to take a look just at the variety of benefits across the state that's available. And as part of that Tri-Stars and Stripes Council, we're actually looking to update that this year. So that is all for me. I'm going to turn it over to Assistant Commissioner Rice, and he'll give you some more information about our state veteran cemeteries.
Hey, thanks, Catherine. So a lot of you probably didn't realize that Tennessee operates 5 state veteran cemeteries here in Tennessee. They are all grant funded. And let's be honest, when you're dealing with clients, burial benefits is probably not high on the list immediately to discuss with clients. A lot of times when attorneys or service officers are engaging with families or veterans, it's because they are looking to try to file a compensation or pension claim. And the last thing that most people are thinking about are what burial benefits that they are eligible for. And I'm hoping by the time we wrap this up today that you'll have a better understanding of what's available here in Tennessee. A little bit about the application process and how to help families navigate these conversations. So, what is our mission? Our mission is to honor Tennesseans and honor Tennessee veterans with a dignified final resting place. And there's a number of reasons why we do this. We want to honor those who served. But some of the key aspects that we're looking at is we're looking to bridge the service gap. The VA national cemeteries, they can't cover every region, and state cemeteries, are able to provide access, especially for rural veterans that the national cemeteries aren't able to reach. And so it's a partnership that we've established through a grant program that allows the states to establish veteran cemeteries. And like Catherine was saying earlier, that we are statutorily mandated and authorized to establish state veteran cemeteries in each grand division. Another aspect is, we have federal support, which allows us to capitalize on the federal tax dollars, but it also allows us to have local control over the cemetery, how it's developed and how it's maintained. While again, federal funding and tailoring the services to Tennessee specific needs, and then meeting the demographic needs of our veterans. We have 450,000 veterans in Tennessee, concentrated in certain areas, and state cemeteries ensure that veterans and their families have accessible burial options. So as I was saying that 466103 allows the state to apply for grants. The National Cemetery Administration has a cemetery grant program that assists states in the establishment and future expansions of veteran cemeteries as needed. Basically, the process is if there are veterans to be served in the area, the state can apply for a 100% reimbursable grant with the federal grant program. They will then fund and reimburse the state up to 100% for the establishment. And then as the burial sections exhaust themselves, then we then go back to them and ask for expansions, in which, again, another grant program that allows us to expand our cemeteries to accommodate additional veterans. Any cemetery that we establish or expand has to align with the Department of Veterans Affairs and the NCA planning criteria to qualify for the federal funding. Currently, we have 3 burial types that our cemeteries can accommodate. We've got in-ground crypts, in-ground cremations, and columbarium space. So, as times change and religions evolve, we have seen an uptick in the number of cremations, and so in-ground cremations and columbariums have started to become popular here in Tennessee. But we also offer precast crypts, and so if if you're looking to advise a client about long-term burial options, you can assure them that Tennessee is committed to maintaining those and expanding these cemeteries as needed. We have several hundred years worth of land to be developed. And so Tennessee's done a really good job in really stewarding this land and making sure that we have enough, far into the distant future. So again, Tennessee operates on a mix of federal grants and state oversight. Travis, if you can go back to the other to 466103. Again, federal grants applies to US TDVA funding to develop and expand those cemeteries. We put up a grant application. We have to put up a 10% match, which funds will be reimbursed at the end of the project 100%. And as you can see, this mandates that we apply for those grants and use those grants as they're available. You can go on to the next slide. So state appropriations, again, Tennessee 466104, it requires legislative approval, appropriation of funds to be extended, again, for the function and operations of our state veteran cemetery. Looking ahead at 466106, the commissioner also has rulemaking authority on how we operate these cemeteries. Currently, we generally operate on a SOP or policy, and we've recently delved into the rulemaking aspect of the cemeteries with our looking at memorial monuments at our cemeteries. So what does it mean for veterans and families? We have 5 veteran cemeteries. The goal is to have, at least the NCA's goal is to have a veteran cemetery within 70 to 75 miles of each veteran. That's a tall task. The U.S. is fairly large. Here in Tennessee, we're blessed to have, again, 5 veteran cemeteries that belong to the state, and then almost as many national cemeteries here in the state as well. And so, if a veteran wants to be interred and is eligible, there is definitely that opportunity. We've got a state veteran cemetery in Memphis that is by far our busiest veteran cemetery. It's got one of the largest veterans population. That cemetery it has done as many as 16 internments in a day during the peak of COVID. But generally that cemetery does anywhere from 5 to 8 internments a day, Monday through Friday. Parker's Crossroads is over in the Jackson area, over Lexington. They do roughly 2 to 3 internments every 2 weeks. So you can see a little bit of a disparity there, but it's a more rural cemetery, one of our newer cemeteries. We've got a cemetery in Nashville, Middle Tennessee State Veterans Cemetery over off McCrory Lane. And we've got 2 in East Tennessee. One is closed, our oldest cemetery at Lions View and just off of downtown Knoxville. That one was established in 1990. It's a smaller cemetery that is currently closed to new internments, and then its expansion cemetery over off John Sevier Highway is the expansion of that. Fiscal year 24, like I was saying earlier, we have quite a number of acreage within the cemetery system. We've got about 730 acres scattered amongst the 4 open cemeteries. Currently, right now, 342 are developed, so we're about half. And I'll just give you some context. The West Tennessee State Veteran Cemetery's got over 22,000 developed grave sites right now that are occupied. And so, as you can see, that there's quite a bit, over 51,000 headstones maintained within the system. And last year we did over 2,647 internments for the year, and it fluctuates anywhere from 2,600 to 3,000. And so our cemeteries are very busy. So because our state veteran cemetery is grant operated, we do accept private donations, private funds in operating our cemeteries. Many of our cemeteries have what they call a support group, which is a 501c3 that generally they start off as a steering committee at the establishment of the cemetery, and then as the cemetery opens, they transition into a support group model. and a lot of times they will be able to help us fund projects, something as simple as updating our sound system in the chapel, or um, installing benches out at the sections, or one Eagle Scout project here this last week. They just christened it a flag retirement uh, uh, burn. I don't want to call it burn pit. It sounds uh, but they donated the concrete, they donated everything, and those are projects that we wouldn't have been able to fund otherwise. Right now, our cemeteries basically operate off of the reimbursements that we get from the Veterans Affairs plot reimbursements, and so our funds are limited. We're one of the smallest agencies within the state, and so we try to be as efficient as possible. Let's talk a little bit about eligibility. And I will tell you, eligibility for interment at a veteran cemetery could be probably a week-long class in and of itself. There's a lot of complexity to it. In Tennessee, because we are a grant-funded cemetery, our eligibility for interment is fairly simple. It basically points to 38 USC 2402 and says whatever the National Cemetery Administration allows for internment at our veteran cemetery, then that's what Tennessee is going to mirror. There is an exception in in the eligibility among veterans are veterans that from the Vietnam War. They were a guerrilla unit that partnered with the CIA and worked behind the lines. They were granted eligibility to be interred in a veteran cemetery. However, as it stands right now, the only veteran cemeteries that they are permitted to be interred in are nationals. Currently, there's no mechanism for the state veteran cemeteries to inter among veterans. However, there is a legislative push on the federal side to expand that uh, to allow those to happen. There's a large Hmong population in the Nashville-Davidson County um, that that are interred over at National, and Nationals. One of the reasons why many of our national cemeteries are running low on space, and so they're from time to time, if you want to be interred at a state veteran cemetery, they'll have to defer you over and refer your families over to states depending on the availability. Um, so the basic criteria, according to 38 USC, is any veteran, including those who died during active military, naval, air, and space service, certain National Guard member, component, Space Force, Army National Guard, Air National Guard who died under specific conditions, and the like. I have put together an eligibility resource reference guide that I have given to the TBA for distribution. Again, there are a lot of different criteria that have to be met. Bottom line is that if you're eligible, your family members, dependents are also eligible, and it's a free service provided. I say free, they've earned it, right? But it doesn't cost the family anything as far as to be interred at a state veterans cemetery. Eligible members, and this is through 2032, like I said, dependent spouse, surviving spouse, minor children under 21. A lot of that is going to be dependent upon whether they're a dependent child, if they obtain some sort of uh, medical condition that creates a dependency on the veteran and the spouse, then those individuals can be interred with their veteran. We've got a special parent provision that if a single service member dies in hostile action or from training related injuries, and they're not married, they don't have any children, then if space is available at the service member's gravesite, then parents can also be interred. Again, that's another one of those special provisions that is afforded to single veterans. And again, there are plenty of other eligibility groups. Again, I've covered a lot of that in the document that I provided. We've got a lot of information to cover. And so we'll kind of gloss over that. But, just know that the state of Tennessee does offer these services, and, it's free of charge. And that's one of those things that we kind of push through our pre-registration system. There's no fee for veterans. There's up to a $300 fee for veteran spouses, but we do not charge it right now. Veterans and their spouses, we enter at no cost. Again, it's a huge benefit for Tennessee veterans. Cost of internments are not cheap. At last look, and we coordinate with a lot of funeral homes, it can cost anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 to conduct an internment, buy plot, vaults and the like. And so this is a big benefit for veterans and their families. So I'll tell you a little bit about the NCA grant program. So currently there are 122 other state and tribal veteran cemeteries that qualify under the grants program as promulgated at 38 USC 2408. Again, like I was saying earlier, it provides states and tribal cemeteries with funding to establish and expand. Again, it's 100% reimbursement. There's one caveat to that. Like I said, there are 122 other cemeteries all vying for the same program budget of $60 million. And right now, Tennessee, as an example, I have 3 different expansions in various states of construction going on in Tennessee. And, one expansion current costs are at anywhere from $9 million to $16 million. And as you can see, that eats up a chunk of their program budget. And so it's a very competitive process. But I also looking at what there's a carrot and a stick. Here with, if you want that money, if you want to participate in that grant program, you have to agree to compliance reviews, on-site compliance reviews every 3 years. They send staff down to review 95 standards and measures, anything from the height of the grass, the presence of weeds in the turf, flower beds, to auditing the eligibility paperwork, the accuracy of the headstone inscriptions, and our processes in general. They come out and give us a grade. They come out and review all of these. Depending on the cemetery, it can be a 3-day event, and there's a lot of preparation. They audit generally a 12-month period. Of course, we need to update this slide. We just had a cemetery inspection, I guess, last month, or the first part of this month, at Parker's Crossroads. It's been inspected twice, and now twice both inspections, they will be recognized nationally with an Operational Excellence Award. In the last, 2 years, the other 4 cemeteries have all gone through these compliance reviews, and in those will have received Operational Excellence Awards. And so that is it's a point of pride for our organization. There are not many states out there that can say that the last 6 compliance reviews, each cemetery consecutively, have all earned Operational Excellence Awards. And they do 30 to 40 compliance reviews every year, and only a handful of cemeteries are recognized, and about half in other states are even passing. So very proud of our team and what we've been able to accomplish with, again, like we were saying earlier, with the limited budget, limited resources. And so we do rely on a lot of partnerships. So we have an estate plan, what we call an estate planning tool. One of the things that we push, and I know the National Cemetery Administration also pushes it on their side. They call it something different though. We've got a pre-registration for eligibility at our veteran cemeteries, and it gives the families and the veteran an opportunity to submit their documentation and apply for uh, eligibility, to determine their eligibility before they need it. They'll have the files on record here with our cemeteries. That way the family does not have to worry about that at their time of need. We keep an archive of their documents. And again, it allows them to go ahead and have everything in place at the time before they need it. A lot of times, if a veteran wants to be interred and they've not done a pre-need eligibility determination, it can be kind of challenging to get documents. A lot of families have no idea what a DD 214 is, what it looks like, whether that person is eligible or not. And, depending on the circumstances, a lot of times we have difficulties recreating files. The archives at one point had a fire, lost a number of veterans records. And so sometimes it takes a little bit to recreate. And then, just making the requests from St. Louis, because they've got requests coming from all directions, it can take months to get anything back. And so we always encourage our families, our veterans, to go ahead and do this now and not wait. One of the things that I also provided prior to this was a trifold of what pre-registration looks like, how to go about directing someone to the pre-registration process. It's got a link to all of the websites and phone numbers. Some of the documents that they're going to need. They're going to need VA decision letters if they're receiving any compensation or pension. And the DD 214. There's a document called the NGB 22, which is the National Guard version of the DD 214. Marriage license, death certificates. At the time, you're going to need cremation certificate permits, and a lot of that can be done at the with the funeral home. Again, some of these documents are not needed for pre-registrations, but if ultimately a family member is going to be interred, then physician statement would be one of those items that they would need if it's a dependent child or a dependent adult that is going to be interred. And so there's a number of documents that are going to be required at the time. And here's the website for our state veteran cemeteries. It's in that trifold. I believe these slides should be available as well. With the pre-registrations process, most of it is automated, and it's just a matter of filling out an online form, uploading a couple documents to it, and hitting submit. It then goes over to the cemetery in which you're applying for pre-registration. They review the documents, determine eligibility, and then they will send the veteran and their family an email or a letter in the mail, depending on their selection, letting them know that whether they're eligible or not, and if they're not eligible, what's missing. So, again, there are several opportunities to honor and serve. Lots of ways to help our cemeteries be the best that they can be. Every Memorial Day, a few days before and a few days after, we place flags at each headstone and we do a pickup. Generally, there's a ceremony where we honor the fallen, honor the families that are interred there. In Veterans Day, same thing. We do a flag placement and pick up at each cemetery, at each headstone. December 16th, every year, Wreaths Across America, the community will take up donations and buy wreaths through the Wreaths Across America program. And they will deliver those, and we will go out with a number of volunteers and place headstones at veterans, or place wreaths at a veteran's headstone in honor and remembrance of them. And you can volunteer at a cemetery. There's always things to do, from brushing, washing headstones, to helping pick up debris, weed flower beds, painting projects. And then we've got unaccompanied veterans that we honor. So what is an unaccompanied veteran? Unfortunately, there are a number of veterans that, for one reason or the other, their families are either not known or unable to be located. Many of our unclaimed, unaccompanied veterans are homeless and have been found on the streets. So we partner with the medical examiner's office. We partner with a number of funeral homes, and we make sure that no veteran is interred at our cemetery without a family. Many local communities will make a big event of it. Military honors will come out. Various other nonprofits will post it on social media. And so, we want to make sure that no one is laid to rest alone. So the Dignified Burial and Other Veterans Benefits Improvement Act of 2012, it enables collaboration between the VA and funeral directors and medical examiners, what I was speaking of just a moment ago. We want to make sure that they have dignified burials. And so a lot of times the funeral homes will donate, or they'll get a reimbursement from the Department of Veterans Affairs for a casket. I've seen a number of very sad situations where an unaccompanied veteran has been delivered to our facility in a pine box, all the way down to something as simple as a cardboard box. And that is something that we've taken on, that we do not want to ever have that happen. And we've got a number of folks within the community that have gone above and beyond in order to help us ensure that every veteran that comes over there has got a proper casket and is laid to rest with dignity. So, Travis, I can go on. I know there's a lot to unclaimed and the cemeteries in general, but I know that we have some other topics to cover, and I could probably, again, talk all day about our cemeteries, but I will turn it over to you, sir.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. So I'm going to shift our focus back to the advocacy portion of the department's mission, which Catherine alluded to earlier, which is to advocate, inform, and honor. We serve veterans within a federal legal framework, and for our state and county employees, it requires accreditation or federal recognition or authority that's granted by the Department of Veterans Affairs and required by law to assist claimants in the preparation, presentation, and prosecution of claims for VA benefits. Accreditation is required to provide advice, assistance, and counsel in specific claims for VA benefits. The current federal statutory framework, you can see the citations on the slide, allows VA to accredit or recognize veteran service officers, agents, or attorneys. Most assistance across Tennessee and the United States is provided by lay advocates, accredited veteran service officers who work for a state, a county, or a tribal or national veteran service organization. The Tennessee Department of Veterans Services is one of these recognized state organizations. We were created and primarily funded by a state government for the purpose of serving the needs of veterans. We had to meet certain requirements to be recognized. including responsibility to provide representation throughout VA's administrative claims process. This authority allows TDVS to recommend individuals to serve as accredited representatives, and those are state and county employees. The federal regulations outline the requirements needed to obtain and maintain accreditation. And there are three main components to that: training, testing, and monitoring. And TDVS provides these to its network of over 200 advocates across the state. We do that through a policy, but briefly, training, we provide a fairly robust training program. It includes 4 required quarterly trainings. We do 2 of those in person and utilize technology to do 2 virtual learning opportunities. One of those is our annual conference, a 3-day event where we bring advocates from all across the state together to learn and interact and improve their trade. We also provide a variety of opportunity trainings. We host monthly lunch and learns. We provide post-accreditation reinforcement training visits within a service officer's first year of service, and on-demand training as needed by our network of advocates. We test our accredited representatives annually, and they must maintain a certain test score to maintain their federal recognition. And finally, we monitor. We monitor advocates through a quality review program where certain applications for benefits are reviewed by select staff prior to filing. We also monitor their work through a combined claims management system, regional leadership, and visibility of the appellate work. The regulations, federal regulations, provide a code of conduct that accredited representatives must follow, and accredited attorneys must also adhere to the rules of professional responsibility. Historically, lay advocates predominated in this system because it was established and designed to be non-adversarial. Historically, the federal policy has discouraged attorney representation of claimants before VA. And they did this back as far as the Civil War by making it a crime for an attorney to charge more than $10 to represent a claimant for VA. Again, that first law fee limitation dates back to 1862. And for decades, it effectively stopped attorneys from representing veterans. Congress began removing some of those barriers in the 1980s. It began with passage of the Veterans Judicial Review Act of 1988, which allowed attorneys to earn a reasonable fee for representation following and within 1 year of a denial by the Board of Veterans' Appeals. There was an amendment to the Equal Access to Justice Act, which we'll discuss more later, in 1992, that made clear the Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims had authority to order VA to pay attorney's fees. And finally, legislation in 2006, the Appeals Improvement and Modernization Act, expanded circumstances when a claimant could hire or pay an agent or an attorney for representation. Today, attorneys can charge a reasonable fee after the VA has issued an initial decision. However, at the administrative level, before the Department of Veterans Affairs, most representation is still done by representatives. Those lay advocates serving as veteran service officers, and is done free of charge. So we've been providing this this learning opportunity for a couple of years, and in the past, this discussion of accreditation was pretty familiar to folks that had tuned in. However, within the last year, there have been some significant events, the debate concerning the scope of the federal statutes and regulations governing assistance with veterans claims. It's playing out in Congress, in state legislatures, including here in Tennessee, and in the courts. And so we'll spend just the next couple of minutes taking you through some of the legislation and the cases. As I mentioned, federal law states that anyone assisting veterans with VA claims has to be accredited by VA's Office of General Counsel. The intent of that law was to ensure veterans receive qualified, responsible representation, and also provided limits for when and how much veterans can be charged for services. However, the removal of criminal penalties for violations of these laws in 2006 led to an explosion of unaccredited and some would argue unscrupulous companies targeting veterans for profits. So let's talk a little bit about congressional action. In the 118th Congress, the last session of Congress, there were two competing statutes introduced. The Guard VA Benefits Act, which would have restored criminal penalties on individuals who solicit, contract for, charge, or receive any unauthorized fee or compensation for assisting with VA benefits, and the Plus Act, which made changes to how VA would recognize or accredit agents and attorneys, and in a new provision would have allowed charging a flat fee for an initial claim for benefits. This is a fairly significant departure from current law. Both bills have been reintroduced in the 119th Congress in the House and referred to the Committee on Veterans Affairs and have not moved beyond that process at this point. And the Congress, although a deliberative body, isn't always the fastest moving. And so we've seen legislative action across the states. Several states have tied a violation of federal law, not being accredited, charging for initial claims, to state consumer protection laws, to give them an enforcement mechanism that's missing at the federal level. One state, until a few weeks ago, Louisiana, had taken a different approach. They passed legislation last year that allows individuals to charge a fee for initial claims. It provided some guardrails, but marked a significant departure from the federal legal framework. Right? They were allowed to provide that assistance without accreditation or federal recognition. About a week ago, Tennessee joined Louisiana. And actually yesterday, April 21st, the SAVE Act, Senate Bill 362 was signed by the governor, which again allows individuals to charge a fee for initial claims without accreditation, and also includes several guardrails to protect the interest of veterans. This debate is also playing out in the courts. Following Louisiana's passage of the Plus Act, a federal lawsuit was filed against the state, arguing that the law violates the supremacy and contracts clauses in the U.S. Constitution, and that case continues in the discovery stage. In two other states, New Jersey and Maine, they were sued for their laws to prevent businesses from, among other things, charging veterans for assistance with disability claims unless the business is accredited with VA. Both suits were brought by Veterans Guardian and individual veterans, and they allege in part that the state laws violate the First Amendment by unlawfully restricting speech based on content and unlawfully restricting the freedom to petition the government for redress and the corresponding freedom of association. So now that we've taken a quick look at the evolving legal framework, we're going to turn our focus back to today's advocacy framework and specifically take a little bit of a closer look at Tennessee. And so the slides provide just kind of a visual representation of some of what Catherine covered earlier, right? Tennessee's network of over 200 accredited representatives distributed between the state of Tennessee's 13 field offices and county veteran service officers and staff in nearly every county across the state. Most applications for VA benefits are going to begin at that local level in a TDVS field office or county veteran service office. And so when that veteran or family member comes in to seek benefits, that work occurs again in TDVS and county service offices, and that practice happens in front of what is called an agency of original jurisdiction, right? Specifically, VA's Veterans Benefits Administration, which administers the disability compensation, pension, home loan, insurance, and education benefits. Two additional administrations, the Health and Cemetery Administration, provide additional benefits, but much of the practice of veteran service officers occurs before the Benefits Administration. And just to give you some context, in the state's fiscal year 22-23, TDVS and county partners filed over 13,000 applications. That increased in the last fiscal year to over 16,000 applications for benefits. And we think that increase can be attributed to a significant piece of federal legislation. The Sergeant First Class Heath Robinson promised to address Comprehensive Toxics Act of 2022, commonly referred to as the PACT Act. And that law was one of the largest expansions of VA care and benefits in the last 30 years. It significantly expanded and extended eligibility for VA health care for veterans with toxic exposures, veterans of the Vietnam era, Gulf War era, and post 9/11 veterans. It also expanded eligibility for benefits for any veteran exposed to toxic substances. So what are the results of this advocacy? Well, federal data tells us that in federal fiscal year 23, VA expenditures in the state of Tennessee totaled over $7 billion. Right? This includes direct payments to veterans in the form of compensation and pension benefits, which are those benefits that are most influenced by our network of accredited representatives. We also practice before the boards of Veterans Appeals. The composition and procedures are governed by 38 USC 7101, 7112, cited on the slides. And this entity administrative body was created by President Franklin Roosevelt by executive order in 1933. Its mission is to make final decisions on awards for benefits following a denial. Again, we have lay advocates that practice before this tribunal. It's primarily 6 team members who do most of our Board of Veterans Appeals advocacy. Historically, most of this was oral advocacy. It was in the form of hearings before a veterans law judge where our team members provided representation to veterans or family members following a denial of benefits. And again, to give you some sense of the scope of this representation, over the past 3 years, we've seen nearly 1,000 hearings scheduled per year as the board struggled under a huge workload of over 200,000 appeals. Again, we're really concerned about the effectiveness and the outcomes related to the representation we provide. And we're proud to say that when we provide oral advocacy, we have an 88% success rate, which is higher than the general disposition we see by the board across the country. We also know that we help veterans secure over 17 million in retroactive awards, benefits that they've earned during the course of the last fiscal year. We're also in the midst of a transition in our advocacy because the Appeals Improvement and Modernization Act of 2017 significantly changed the way a veteran disagrees with a VA decision. That law created a variety of options, right? What had previously been a very linear path now provides more choice to veterans in how they want to pursue their disagreement with VA. This also changed options at the Board of Veterans Appeals. And so rather than this linear path, which included a hearing, veterans can now elect to have a judge review and make a decision on the record, to simply offer evidence and have judge make a decision, or continue with a hearing opportunity. As a result of this, we've created a written advocacy program to support those veterans whose appeals did not elect a hearing. And finally, we'll briefly touch on the Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims. The Veterans Judicial Review Act of 1988 ended what some scholars had called the splendid isolation, a term used to describe VA's insulation from judicial review. Prior to 1988, VA decisions made by the Board of Veterans Appeals were final and not subject to any judicial review. The CAVC, the Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims, is an Article I court, and it now has exclusive jurisdiction for appeals of VA denial of benefits. It has 7 permanent active judges and 2 additional judges currently serving as part of a temporary expansion. And their service is for 15-year terms. And just like other federal judges, they are nominated by the president and confirmed by the Senate. Again, the court has exclusive jurisdiction over BVA decisions. It's based on the record before the agency and the arguments in the parties. We do not see a lot of precedential decisions each year. There are a lot of one-judge decisions, and frequently VA and members of the private bar will negotiate and enter into joint motions to remand, acknowledging that the VA made some mistake and sending those cases back to VA for additional action and re-adjudication. The court also has class action authority and has utilized that. And finally, the Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit has jurisdiction to hear regulatory challenges and appeals from CAVC. And there have been and continue to be veterans law cases that reach both the Federal Circuit and Supreme Court. The Supreme Court issued a veterans benefit decision, I believe just a few weeks ago, and earlier this year in April, issued a decision in Rudisill versus McDonough, which changed how qualifying periods of military service impact benefits earned. So individuals are now eligible for expanded VA education and training benefits. And I believe we've reached our time. So I will stop there and check the chat. And I think we have just a minute or two to ask questions or answer questions, and appreciate the opportunity to share some information. Again, lots of opportunities to support Tennessee service members, veterans, and their families. The last slide is just contact information for the Tennessee Department of Veterans Services. As Patrick alluded to, we urge you to assist your clients in contemplating state or federal burial benefits, other VA benefits as part of estate planning, always opportunities for pro bono civil legal assistance. And as Patrick mentioned, lots of opportunities to volunteer at a state veterans cemetery. And with that, we are complete. So thank you.
Hey there, Travis. Quick question. Is this 615-741-2345? That's the number that folks would call if they have questions to follow up, or?
Yeah, that's our general customer inquiry line or service line, staffed 8 to 4:30 every day. So that'd be a great number. Folks can also reach us directly via that number if they have questions.
Okay. Okay. So I suppose if anybody has any direct questions for you or Patrick or Catherine, they can email me and I can pass
Yeah,
it.
and I'm happy to drop. We're happy to drop emails in the
Oh
chat.
yeah,
if
perhaps
that's
if you
helpful for
could put your email address.
Yeah.
Actually, here, Patrick, I'm gonna put yours where everybody can see here. Well, thank you so much. Sorry, I'm just doing this administrative
Thank you.
thing. And there's Patrick's, everyone. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, well, thank you so much for being with us today. And again, folks, if you have a question for these members of not members, but these folks that have kindly shared their time and expertise with us from the Department of Veteran Services, please reach out to them. And Travis and Patrick and Catherine, again, thank you so much. And I will see everybody soon at the next TBA program. Okay. All right. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.